Hey guys, we're back with another episode of our Sryth Fantasy Text-Based RPG. Listen, I apologize for missing last week. Uh, Things caught up with me and I just didn't have time to record. So, hey, we're here, we're back. We're getting on with our adventures. We're going to go for Eastern Tisa now. Move on to Southeast and do the adventures as they come along. I am still working on getting the daily quest thing with, I forget what it was called, but it was like red cap something. I'm gonna do that off screen because I just can't seem to keep up with doing daily episodes. But hey, thanks so much for hanging out and joining me. Like I said, I'm really sorry about missing last week, but hopefully we can get back on point here and move along. But hey, look, also I'm on rank number 65, which is awesome. That's the best I've seen, I think, that I've been, so that's exciting. Oh, so yeah, so we're in Eastern Tisa. I'm gonna go to Warfoot, because this just goes to this screen, and then Dragon Warren just has Warfoot. So we're gonna go to Warfoot, see what's happening there. Let's just go. Snug against the dense evergreen forest that surfs about the boundary between Grey Warren's eastern lowlands and the foothills of the Alspuin Mountains, the village of Warfoot appears, upon first glance, to be little more than a disparate collection of wood and stone structures. The towering statue of Seer stands in the center of the remote settlement. The inhabitants of Warfoot are instinctively distrustful of strangers, but fiercely loyal to those they respect or choose to befriend. So we got to become friends with the people here. Let's check out what this says about the mountains. The vast mountain range spans nearly the entire eastern flank of the kingdom of Tisa. It serves as a natural border between Tisa and Riosil. Several passes high amidst the towering peaks of this imposing range offer passage between the two kingdoms, though the daunting prospect of attempting to traverse the perilous gaps has seen to it that the paths are infrequently travelled. Legend tells of the series of deep tunnels that pass beneath the mountains connecting Tisa and Riosil. The tunnels are said to have been constructed in the Age of Storms by a race of giants who have long since vanished. One of the tallest peaks in all of Alspuins is Mount Kirigan. Okay, what's the Age of Storms? Considered the Age of Araludin and lasts for over 10,000 years. Sryth, two races of men, the Avari and the Voranthan, arrived in North Sryth towards the middle of this age. The stark and brutal age of Sryth's history was characterized by violent storms of magical energy that raged over the whole of the world for years at a scratch. Many lore masters believe that the storms were caused by open rifts between the world of Sryth and the realm of the Neverness. There's a lot of open realms now, or portals to the Neverness that we keep closing, so it's in danger of coming back, yeah? Mount Kirigan. A snow-capped giant known as Mount Kirigan is one of the highest peaks in the Alspuin range. Near the summit of the grand mountain stands the long-abandoned fortress of Fort Ironwind. Fort Ironwind, the origin of the ancient fortress of Ironwind, perched on the treacherous, snow-laden upper reaches of Mount Kirigan, is shrouded in mystery. The fort, a grim stone structure, overlooks one of the highest passes in all the Alspuin Mountains, is believed to be well over 1,000 years old, though who it is that constructed it and for what purpose remains unknown. I mean, forts are to protect something, aren't they? Reaching the fort is no easy task, apart from the deadly perils presented by the harsh, wintry, unforgiving weather that assails Kirigan's Peak. The narrow spine of the ledge that once stood to the foot of the fort's perch long ago crumbled away. Well, there's some history about the area we're in. Let's go to the inn. Owned and operated by Sryth and Janard Ironhaft, the Red Gate Inn is one of the newest structures in Warfoot. Built within the last decade, the inn serves as not only one of the region's most only functional hostelries, but also as a gathering place of folk from both Warfoot and nearby settlements. The inn's curious name, according to the owners, due to the fact that it stands upon a foundation made of stone taken from the ruins of Redgate Keep. Redgate Keep, abandoned 300 years ago after having been used for nearly that long, the hilltop fortress known as Redgate Keep has fallen into ruin. The upper portion of the keep has, within the last century, completely collapsed, leaving only rubble-strewn swath of ground to mark where the imposing structure once stood. The lower level of the keep, which houses its dungeon, remains largely intact, though it's doubtful that there are many brave enough to venture into the shadowy depths of the ruins. A tall man wearing a wide-brimmed leather hat leans against a nearby wall. The unsettling gaze of the stranger appears to be fixed on you. I mean, do you want to report some mysterious stranger? Not really, but let's do it. As you approach the hatted man, he appears to quickly scan the room before stepping forward to meet your advance. It's good to see you, old friend, he says in a low voice, handing you a small leather pouch. It's been a while, but it gladdens me to know you're well. Who are you? Suddenly the man turns his head towards the door and you instinctively follow his gaze. Seeing nothing of interest in that direction, you turn back only to find the man in the broad-brimmed leather hat is no longer there. Hey, after determining that the man in the leather hat is nowhere to be found in the inn, you examine the pouch and you're surprised to discover it contains 10 adventure tokens. Still puzzling over the curious encounter and what it might ultimately portend, you take a seat at a nearby table and spend the next small while watching the patrons who filter in and out of Warfoot's most famous establishment. Brah. Nice. Janet and the younger, shorter and heavier of the two Ironhaft brothers wipes his hand on a grease-stained apron and pauses from his toilet to converse with you. What brings you so far out this way? He asks, smiling. You haven't talked to my brother, have you? If you do, just remember that anything he says about me is unlikely to be true. Unless it's something good, of course. After a few minutes, Janet excuses himself and moves to tackle one of the many chores on his endless list of tasks to be completed before the day's end. Okay. I haven't talked to your brother. Okay. I can only talk to you. Okay. Buy something to drink. Janet's daughter, Neluria, is a somewhat wild-eyed young woman whose head is covered in tangled mane of dark hair. Sees the food and drinks requests of the inn's patrons. She smiles as she approaches you and asks if there's something you like. Well, let's go higher first. The roast goose, served in a wooden bowl atop a bed of somewhat sketchy greens, is blackened on the edges. A wedge of hard bread, 2 boiled onions, and a steaming mug of palo round out the generous serving. The grouse proves tasty, even if slightly overcooked. The bread chewy, the onions stronger and less appealing than you might otherwise enjoy. In only a short spell, nothing remains of the fortifying meal. Alright, let's get the stew. The meat stew is served in a large bowl, set atop a wooden tray, which also bears a wedge of hard bread, a curious sticky confection with Illyria calls brittle sweet, and a steaming mug of palo. The stew proves both delectable and fortifying, the bread challenging and the brittle sweet somewhat less pleasant than described. You toil away the hearty meal until not a morsel remains. It must be a little bit good, eh? Let's get the porridge. The porridge is served hot, almost dangerously so, with a wedge of hard bread. They always give you this hard bread. Something that passes for a piece of cheese and a frothing flagon of ale. Despite its incredibly thick consistency and near scalding temperature, the porridge proved both delicious and filling. And it takes only a few minutes to empty your bowl. Alright, that's it. Let's talk to them one more time. No. Okay, let's leave then. Let's say hello to the smithy. Warfoot's lone smithy is operated by a man named Tribeer. Smith, originally hailing from Sryth. For the past 2 decades, Tribeer has plied his trade here on the kingdom's remote eastern frontier. Tribeer usually has a number of different weapons and pieces of armor for sale, but he's either crafted himself or acquired and repaired. Let's see the weapons first. We got anything to sell? Yeah, we sell it. Moolah. New items. Trash. Okay, got it. Do you have any armor? You have any armor? You do. Well, you can have any of that. Oh, you got even more than 1,000 for that. You can have these. And these. And these. Sweet. Alright, what you got for sale? Let's see. Trash. These are unmatched and superior. It's not trash if I didn't have adventure tokens. Let's talk to him. Tribeer seems only too glad to step away from his work and converse with you. The sooty-faced Smith, his thick arms knotted with seemingly impossible tangles of muscles, tells you that he's thankful to receive news of the world beyond Warfoot. Excuse me. What brings you out this way? He asks. I can sense you're no stranger to this sort of place, the wild, I mean. Even so, this part of the kingdom is no place to carelessly wander. But you probably don't need to me tell you that. After conversing with him for several minutes, Tribeer politely excuses himself and returns to his work. Okay, did I answer you? I'm exploring the whole kingdom. That's why I'm over here. Alright, let's leave. Investigate the massive claw-shaped standing stone. You step up to the claw-shaped standing stone and discover that the massive piece of rock is actually protruding out of the ground. The stone's near-perfect curves and smooth surface makes it difficult to believe that it's entirely a natural construct. From all angles, the stone looks like the talon of some gargantuan beast plugging up through the earth. Engraved near the base of the stone, just an inch from the ground, is a curious symbol. It's the Scar of Arkindar. Yep. Alright, let's check the adventures. The Green Giant. An Arkin stone mass inspired adventure. He's green, he's gigantic, he's not very jolly. Alright, let's hit it. Scale difficulty, because why wouldn't I? The bounty is too large to ignore. 1,000 gold, a powerful lure for even the most jaded adventurer. After all, for someone like you, how difficult could it be to convince an aging, one-armed giant to leave his lair and seek out greener pastures? Preferably pastures not in the immediate vicinity of 3 settlements whose collective reward you determine to claim. With the blessings of a confederation of the region's leaders, you make what the somewhat arduous trek up to the hills west and south of the village of Warfoot. Prepare to negotiate a peaceful settlement with Van Hol, the towering fearsome specimen of a mountain giant, known best by his descriptive moniker, the Green Giant. Negotiations haven't gone well. You dive to your right, narrowly dodging another of the hurled stone chunks. The massive rock splashes into the cave wall just above your head and shatters into large jagged pieces that perilously rain down on you, around you. Van Hog, his deafening voice echoing into the gloom, steps forward as he reaches down with his lone arm to effortlessly hoist aloft yet another small boulder. In case there's any lingering confusion, I'm going nowhere. He bellows, a thick mane of green hair, the result of a sorcerer's curse and the reason for his moniker. Waving wildly from side to side as he advances. You aren't going anywhere either. Your days will end here. Let that be your final bit of this business. A loud grunt, the Green Giant flings the boulder at you. You leap to your left and press yourself flat against the cave wall, nimbly dodging the hurtling boulder. The massive rock slams into the floor in almost the precise spot you occupied just seconds ago. Van Hol snarls contemptuously and stomps forward, his eyes ablaze with disdain of the puny, wretched human that dared into his domain and challenged his self-derived authority. Drawing a large, fearsome-looking wooden club from the makeshift hide scabbard slung across his back, the mountain giant curses as he closes it in to attack. Kill. Defensive, 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 defensive. I need 12. No, we're gonna stay in defensive mode. And we're gonna do some healing. What? This fool done ran away? Okay. Van Hog bellows angrily as he staggers back beyond the range of your attacks, badly bloodied and apparently reconsidering his tactics. Before you can react to his surprise withdrawal, the green-maned giant suddenly turns and stomps off into the dark, deep recess of his cave lair, quickly disappearing into the darkness. Now I gotta follow this fool? You're suddenly just inside the gaping maw of that mountainside cave that has long served as Van Hog's abode. To the north, a broad tunnel exits the massive chamber, disappearing into darkness after only a few yards. North. With your every sense alert for any sign of Van Hol, you warily make your way to the giant's damp and gloomy lair. It's green, I like that. Because he's can you tell it's green? Yeah, you can tell it's green. Because he's named the Green Giant, so his cave's great. You're standing in a broad junction of 3 cave passages. Several crude etchings, possibly of goblin origin, cover the nearby walls. Yes, woodmanship. While utilizing mastery of woodsmanship, you carefully examine the floor for several feet along each length of the tunnel. After only a few moments, you conclude that Van Hog has recently entered the west passage. So he's gone west. I mean, let's go the other way though, because I just want to see what's happening this way. Does it come to a dead end, or does it go around? Because we can head him off at the pass, can't we? Suddenly, it's Van. And here I am with no place further to go. The deep mumbling voice, unmistakably that of Van Hog, issues out of gloom ahead. Instinctively you draw to a halt and assume a defensive stand, realizing that Green giant, looking unseen, currently has the advantage on you. Enough of this. But we need to reach an understanding. I think that I'd rather than fight. As the sound of his voice echoes past you, the one-armed mountain giant emerges from the shadows a dozen yards along the passage riddled with the gruesome marks earned from your recent skirmish. Von Holg appears both wary and vulnerable. Let's talk then. Von Holg grimaces as you attempt to resume negotiating. You're wasting your breath and not going anywhere. He snarls. The humans at what behest you've come. You have nothing to fear from me. Not if they mind their own affairs. Before the opportunity to bargain with him is simply slipping away, you make a final earnest plea to the one-armed giant. For nearly an hour you engage in a tumultuous but diplomatic debate with Von Holg, shrewdly attempting to convince the fearsome giant that both the desires of his human antagonist and his own interests would best be served that he was to leave his abode and take up residence elsewhere. At last, just when you begin to believe your obstinate host is about to toss you from the cave, the unexpected happened. The green giant suddenly shrugs with his massive shoulders and sighs a rumbling sigh. Very well, he says. I think we may have come to an understanding. I believe it best if you leave now, though. I'm not likely to remain friendly for much longer. You can tell the frightened wolves that I'll be gone before the next moon. No desire to outstay your welcome and invite further conflict with the giant. You thank him, bid him farewell, and make your way out of his lair. Upon the return to Warfoot, you reveal the delegation of regional leaders that Von Holg has agreed to leave. Tell them that, while his destination remains unknown, he promises no longer play Grey Warren in his residence. This is taken aback by your apparent unexpected proclamation. The delegation is quickly to overwhelm you with questions, most of which intend to dispel their own disbelief. It's immediately agreed that you'll be paid a full bounty promised you. I never allowed myself to believe there to be a peaceful solution, says a thin, white-haired man named Triaram, a member of the nearby town of South Wales Governing Council. You made your mark, that's for certain. Well done, very well done. Very, very well done. After accepting the payment and surviving a seemingly endless chorus of praise and congratulatory sentiment, you prepare to set off on your way, eager to depart Grey Warren and seek out adventure and another perhaps slightly more hospitable corner of the kingdom. Several years after your encounter with Von Holg, you learn that the legendary green giant met his demise at the hands of the gated legion as he attempts to cross into Riosio. Word of the giant's death slowly traverse across the North Broadlands and reaches you while you're visiting Sryth, following up a lead that promises yet another adventure to be had in the walls of Adderstone. While most either greet the news with apathy or quietly celebrate it, you find yourself unable to immediately determine the true nature of your feelings concerning the pronouncement. Those who have never come face to face with Von Holg, or any giant for that matter, sees him and his brethren as little more than towering brutes, savage and wicked, ever willing to taunt and terrorize those on whose domain they insistently encroach. You know better. While you will never deny that there exist giants both savage and wicked, perhaps worse than that, you realize only too well that giantdom is something far more complex than could ever accurately be depicted in Tales of the Children as they drift off to sleep. There is, and always will be, a simple reverent nobility to a race of beings not many long and storied centuries in the very twilight of their existence. How poignant. Hey, there's more adventures. I don't want to go over time. Let's check it out. Check it out! An unintended portal is a dangerous thing. Your dogged pursuit of a modest goblin leads you deep into the mire. That sounds long, so I'm going to try this one. Scale it. Hit it. Deep in the forest, a morning trek from the village of Warfoot. An unintended portal with nothing to indicate either its origin or purpose is not a welcome sight. 1,000 sinister possibilities vie for your attention, though you manage to suppress such imaginings as you maintain a cautious vigil. For several long minutes you stand at a considerable distance, diligently observing the black, energy-rimmed magical gate. Why would I want to do that? You can only surmise that whoever opened the portal must have stepped into it and likely intends to return from it. After a while you begin to feel strangely compelled to enter the portal. Now, that's a bad idea. Resisting the growing urge to enter the portal, remain where you are, your gaze fixed on the magical gate. Suddenly your pulse quickens, something is stirring in the heart of the portal's inky churning core. A series of ghastly moans rises into the air as the glowing silhouette of an armored man suddenly emerges from the portal. The sight of the translucent headless being, its edges ablaze with thin border of writhing golden energy, fills you with dread. With a deafening shriek, the ghostly figure surges toward you, its feet gliding smoothly across the road's rugged surface as it launches a fierce, unrelenting attack. Good combat. Yeah. As the last glowing remnants of your ghostly foe vanish, a second apparition in its headless silhouette, nearly identical to the first, glides out of the portal. A hideous wail shatters the silence as a gruesome spirit hurtles towards you, his arms outstretched and its clawed hand poised to close around your throat. Big combat. It's another of the headless apparitions surged out of the portal's churning core. Howling wildly, his horrid cry akin to the agonized call of a starving beast, the glowing phantom is swiftly upon you, attempting to close its hands around your neck. Quick combat. Okay, I'm not doing too good. Restoration. Hit it. Hit it. Not gonna let you hit it. Fine. As the last piercing wail of dying spirit fades to silence, your gaze falls upon a tall, slender figure emerging from the portal. The figure's inky silhouette, a deeper black than the swirling darkness of the portal's core, comes fully into focus as a young woman steps out of the magical gate. Her dark robes, gaunt face, and sunken eyes immediately fill you with a profound sense of dread. Why did you interfere, imbecile? You've ruined everything. Without warning, the robed woman waves her right hand at you, unleashing a pulsing arc of negative energy as the deadly magical attack surges through you. It feels as if every fibre of your being is being torn to pieces. Come on, yes. You manage to stave off the damaging effects of the negative energy attack, but quickly find yourself engaged in a brutal fight against a powerful and deadly foe. Brandishing a thin iron staff and a remarkable degree of prowess, the robed woman appears determined to end your life here and now on the lonely stretch of Forest Road. Like, wow. Big stone. You step back from the lifeless body of the sorceress and immediately turn your worried gaze toward the portal without a sound. The magical gate, no longer under the control of the sinister mage, suddenly closes. Quick search of the spellcaster's remain turns up on a small quantity of gold and a dagger. Alright, take it. We sell it. After taking a final look around, you're about to set off on your way when suddenly a shrill hiss from behind sends your pulse racing. Staggering towards you on the edge of the road, their fleshless hands gripping the decayed weapons they long ago took to the grave are set, and the skeletons, hissing wildly, the sinister undead legion steadily advances upon you. I mean, you gotta fight them, yeah? Because we don't want them attacking nearby villages. And I'm good against the undead, as you can see. With its final ragged hissing ringing in your ears, the skeleton staggers back and crumples into a heap of splintered bone. After making certain no more of the undead fiend are lurking about, you promptly set off on your way, eager to be out of the deeper wilds before daylight fades. You find your way back to Warfoot just as dust is settling across the wild vastness of Grey Warren, the village's most prominent landmark. Its towering statue of Seer is a welcome sight following your grim encounter in the nearby forest. In the days that follow, you begin to hear tell of others having discovered unattended portals similar to the one you found. While listening to the accounts told by travellers and locals alike, you can't help but wonder at the sinister significance of the portals, and just how many of those who stumble upon such magical gates never return to tell the tale. Hey, there's more adventures here now. Interesting. Let's sell this dagger in case it's cursed or something. It's a beautiful life. Alright, let me check out the images here. At the request of Sryth Ironhalf, you make your way to a decaying form on the outskirts of Warfoot. The brothers. Alright, I'll try it. Okay, scale it. When Sryth suddenly waves to you from across the crowded common room, you excuse yourself from the group of patrons with whom you are just conversing and make your way over to the elder Ironhalf brother. After nervously glancing over the inn's thronged interior, he ushers you into a small room at the back of the building and closes the door. There in a room cluttered with empty crates, broken chairs, and heaps of Sax, the tall, thin man addresses you, his voice bearing an unmistakable earnestness. I hope you don't consider this a bit too forward, he says nervously, but I've something that has come up, something that I need your help. Speaking swiftly and quietly, Sryth tells you that both his inn and Warfoot at large have been targets of troublesome mischief from a pair of brothers whose farm sits in the outskirts of Warfoot. It's the Teldare lads, he says, unable to hide his disdain for their name. Ever since the old Teldare passed on, his sons have been nothing but blight on Warfoot and some other places. They are more recently accused of taking Sidlan's, Vestra's old dog, Topper, right off his farm. There's never any proof to be had, of course, and Sidlan and the others too polite to press the matter as well. I'm not, and I'll make it worth your while to make that plain to the Teldares. Over several mugs of steaming and somewhat overcooked palo, Sryth relates to you the numerous recent incidents involving Aldin and Albrog Teldare. You learn that following the death of their father, the kind and generous man beloved in and around Warfoot, the brothers Teldare had evolved into a surly drunken pair, brash, violent, and quick to anger. They've made a nasty reputation for themselves, said Sryth, shaking his head. I'd hate to think the old Rin, their father, had seen what's coming then. They were always trouble in mind, but it's become unbearable since they've been on their own. The young man, feeble as he was at the inn, was the only voice that they heeded. It's a shame. Nothing else can be said about it. Sryth describes for you in great detail several recent episodes in which the Teldares bullied, harassed, and tormented patrons of the inn and residents in and around the village. I almost took my rod to them, he says. They laughed and told me to watch myself. My brother dismissed it readily enough, but theirs is no idle threat. Things are getting worse. It has to be stopped. When he asks Sryth what he's asking you to do, he first seems reluctant to come out and say it. I want to be careful about how I put it, he says. The sort of things can be taken the wrong way if one isn't careful. Do you want me to kill them? Sryth opens the door and peers out across the common room. You watch as his gaze falls upon his brother Janet on the far side of the crowded hall. The sighting seems to bring him some measure of relief. He sighs as he closes the door and turns back to you. I should have sent a clear message to the Teldare brothers, he says, his voice lowering as he mentions their name. Whatever it takes, short of actually, permanently harming them. Talk to them. Maybe rough them up just a bit. I doubt they'd give you the sort of trouble, at least not anything you couldn't handle. They need to know that there are consequences for trouble they get up to for the people they hurt. The moment Sryth falls silent, he places a hand on his hips and shakes his head. Topper was the last bit I was willing to tolerate, he said, referring Sidlan's, Vestra's missing dog. Sidlan's a peaceful sort. His farm is right up against the Teldare place. If nothing else, these lads seem to ask for that dog. Sidlan's heart is broken over all this, and that's beyond any doubt. Sryth tells you that he's willing to pay you 500 gold to convince the brothers to mend their ways. Boy. Sryth admits to you that the reasons for wanting the Teldares dealt with are partly selfish, though he's quick to point out the whole reason would be better for it. They're starting to have an effect on business. He said folks don't want to come in here and face the chance of having to deal with them, but there's more to it than that. As I said, the disappearance of old Topper is what finally drove me over the edge. Sidlan's doesn't have much left, but he had Topper, and now he doesn't. The other iron half falls silent for a moment, then in a hushed tone, even lower than the one he's thus far employed, he again speaks. I'm honestly surprised Topper's head hasn't turned up at Sidlan's door. That's the sort of those lads are. That's the sort of thing they inflict upon everything around them. Okay, sure. On your acceptance of the task, Sryth meets you in a shoulder cross. He then describes for you the location of Teldare's farms and tells you that he'll have payment waiting when you return. Just remember to watch yourself at all times, he said, his tone suddenly grim. Those lads are capable of anything. I'm not certain they'll look to challenge you very much, but it's hard to say. May the All-Father watch over you while you're up that way. Sryth agrees, again reminds you that he wishes for the Teldares to have it made plain to them that their uncouth, violent ways will no longer be tolerated. He also asks that you keep your eyes peeled for Topper, Sidlan's, Vestra's missing dog. He describes him to you as a large black dog with a spot of white on his head. Do what you have to do to protect yourself, of course, but nothing more than roughing those lads up should it come to that. I hope you can talk some sense into them and avoid the rest of it, and I hope you find out something about the dog. With that, you bid him farewell and prepare to head off for your rendezvous with the brothers Teldare. Certainly. As you step inside the inn, you're suddenly approached by a black-bearded man garbed in green and black finery. He begs your pardon for your interruption and asks if you might have a private word with you. Somewhere a bit more out of the way than this, he says, just over there, and the other side of the wagon would do nicely. It'll only take a minute or two. Rest of the cart, the man referred, Sryth and Janet, Ironhouse pair of aging mare standing hitched in front of the wagon, their heads bowing over a long feed bin. You channel your power of admiration and immediately sense a faint aura of evil surrounding the man, but he doesn't seem Mimi harm. Okay. Standing behind the iron house wagon, you listen intently to what the bearded stranger has to say. Without introducing himself, he begins to speak quickly and quietly. "I'll not be long with what I have to say," he says. "I represent someone both powerful and influential, someone who desires to see more permanent sort of fixed with regards to the brothers you're on the way, so you're not prepared to pay 2,000 gold to see it done. You need to realize the stranger offered to pay to kill the Teldars." He makes several pointed inquiries, but the man refuses to say anything other than what he's already told you. "There's nothing else to be said to make the objective any clearer, and assure you, however, that you'll never be implicated in anything relates to this. That much I promise you." I mean, I don't want to kill them. I don't need money, so... The bearded man seems put off by the instant you reject the proposal to kill the Teldar brothers. He immediately asks you to reconsider. That isn't worth the space they occupy. There's no risk to you other than which these refugees might pose. I would advise you to think carefully on it. I said no. The final rejection of the proposed task of killing the Teldar brothers raises the bearded stranger's ire. "Then we've concluded whatever this was," he grumbles. Without waiting for you to respond, he turns and makes his way into the inn. I won't glancing back to your direction. Vowing to put the strange encounter out of your mind, set off at once for Teldar's farm. Eager to find out what lies in store for you, the bold of the troublesome brothers. Yeah, so who have they angered that they want them dead? Situated in the outskirts of Warfoot, next to the lazy stream that meanders off along the edge of the encroaching evergreen forest, the Teldar farm is, at first glance, little more than a scattering of dilapidated shacks on an overgrown, treeless swath. With your mind ever focused on the task at hand, you cautiously make your way to the farm, seeking any sign of the brothers you've come here to tend. Following the sound of voices and occasional clank of metal, you find your way to the leaning wooden structure that appears to have at one time served as a stable. There, inside the large opening where a set of massive doors once stood, stand a rickety wagon. Two young men, presumably the Teldar brothers, look up from the broken axle to which they have been attending and step towards you. "Well met. Is there something we can do for you, stranger?" Well, you can respond. The broad-shouldered man who addressed you, on the left side of his face, marked with a long jagged scar, introduced himself as Albrog. The other man steps from the wagon of Albrog and introduced him and his brother Eldin. "It's not often we get visitors up this way. Something you need?" asked Albrog. As about the dog, the brothers exchanged knowing glances as they broached the subject of Sildlan's missing dog. "Sounds like you're trying to accuse us of something," said Eldin, producing a long piece of bent iron, grasping as if it was a weapon. "I think we ought to show the stranger that we appreciate and expect proper manners up this way." With unexpected swiftness, Albrog reaches the back of his wagon, draws out a square of iron, and hurls the object at you. You twist to the side, easily dodging the piece of iron. "Let's chop her up for the wolves," snarls Eldin, and he and his brother rush at you, each of them banishing a length of bent iron. My elbow hurts. What's that about? I'm seeing this in the brothers tell their cry for mercy, desperate in the savage direction that left them bloodied, battered and dazed. You step back, place your hands on your head, slowly shake your head, and just that seems to nearly send Albrog into a panic. He begins breathing rapidly, his wide eyes focus on your every move. "Tell me about the dog." Pressing your advantage, you demand the brothers in the troublesome waves and stop plaguing the people at Warfoot and elsewhere with their brash, violent mischief. So you're somewhat taken back when Eldin and Albrog immediately agree with your pointed stipulation. You want to let them off the hook so quickly, you continue to berate the pair, excoriating them for several of the incidents related to you by Sryth. The brothers are completely sure they no longer inflict themselves upon anyone and will work to make amends for the past transgressions. Just as you're about to take your leave, the pair, confident that you've made a lasting impression upon them physically and otherwise, you suddenly recall Topper. As soon as mentioned the missing dog, the colour drains from the battered faces of both brothers. Albrog immediately stammers an apology, telling you that they only took the dog out after a dispute about the fence with Sildlan. The brothers are quick to tell you that they did not hurt and never intended to hurt Topper, and they're going to return him at some point. Eldin limps into the ramshackle structure that serves their abode and returns a couple minutes later with a large black dog trotting along behind. The patch of whites atop its head is, as described to you by Sryth, confirms this is indeed Sildlan's veteran's missing dog Topper.
Must you relieve the dog seems to have suffered no ill treatment apart from his confinement. After making sure Topper would follow you, take your leave of the brothers, reminding them one last time about their promise to him in their troublesome ways. Then, with Topper lopping along at your heels, you your way off the Teldare farm and embark on a somewhat lengthy trek in the neighbouring tract that of Sidlan Vestrid. Sidlan is overjoyed to have Topper back. The old farmer, who appears to have somewhat degree of difficulty moving about, laughs as a large dog nearly bowls him over as he charges into the small wood in stone abode. The white-haired man, whose broad shoulders and thick arms betray a life of rugged toil, invites you in, and you soon find yourself seated at a cluttered slab table, sipping dangerously out a pale ale from the carved wooden mug. I can't properly tell you what it means to have this old lad back, he says, beaming as he looks over at Topper, who's now curled up by the hearth. It's been just me and Topper for a number of years now, so the Teldares had him. Never thought they'd turn out like they did. Their father would have whipped him if he were about, and nothing but trouble. Seems it getting worse. You tell Sidlan that the brother Teldares will no longer be troubling Warfoot and its inhabitants. The old man seems surprised. You didn't explain to him, leaving out the most of the details. Your success at convincing the brothers to mend their ways. After refusing Sidlan's offer to pay you for returning Topper, you finish your pale ale, bid him farewell, and set out for Warfoot, eager to return to the village and put your mission to the farm behind you. My question is, this people want him killed, and these guys will pay me. Why don't you just do it? Why you need somebody else to do it, and why you gotta keep convincing me that it won't fall back on me? I think it would fall back on me. As you depart, you glance back toward Sidlan's modest dwelling. There, framed in the doorway, lit from within by the flickering glow of a well-kept fire, stand the old farmer and his true and only companion. At that moment, you're unable to bring to mind a happier sight. And it's late afternoon when you finally arrive at Warfoot and make your way into Red Gate Inn. Sryth is both pleased and surprised. You relate to him the success of your task at the Teldar farm. You tell him you found and returned Topper to Sidlan. He's overjoyed. This couldn't have gone any better, he says, grinning. We're rid of the menace and terror and Topper's back with his master. I never let myself believe all this would come to pass. Thank you. Leaving out most of the details of your encounter with the brothers, you tell them that the brothers have been convinced them in their ways. Calves are heart, as most of their ilk is. So you're shaking his head. Of course, your reputation has probably knows them. I'm sure that helped to make them think better of things. Yours pays you as he promised. Well, with any luck, you won't be going back to their old ways. He says, we can only hope. In the days, weeks, and months that follow, you visit the brothers, tell the lives of their dwelling, and in and around Warfoot and the surrounding settlement improves significantly. The poor of the brothers at cast over the region quickly becomes evident to all. Sryth never again speaks with you in any detail about your excursions to the farm, though whenever you visit the Red Gate Inn, and you guys manage to cross two, you always exchange a knowing look and a quick nod. Went longer than I liked, but we did some cool adventures this time. Hey, thanks so much for hanging out and joining me. Until next time, you know what I'm going to say. Peace.